Live from WOWT, First Alert 6 starts with breaking news.
Breaking news we have been following this morning. A person is in the hospital and fighting for their life after a late night crash. Officers were called to the Highway 75 in L just before 11 o'clock last night. We're told the victim was taken to the hospital with life-saving measures in progress. We'll make sure to update you about this breaking situation as soon as we know more on air and online. It is good to have you with us. Happy Friday. Yeah. Thank you for starting the day with us on our First Alert 6 streaming. I'm Maren Hartley.
I'm Cerise Cole. Sure hope you enjoyed the beautiful weather we had yesterday. It's going to feel a bit more like July today, Jarrett.
Yeah, 77 was our high yesterday.
That's beautiful.
It was feeling really nice. Now, we actually are off to a warmer start already, so that's just a sign of where we're heading as we go through the weekend. Let's look at those July details here. We've got some cloud cover out there. We're trying to get some sunshine to break through those clouds, and we'll have a little more success at that as we get later in the day. 67. Where we stand with the temp, but here's the key number, that dew point. Yesterday that was sitting in the 50s. It's already in the low 60s, and it's just going to kind of ease on up as the day goes on. So you'll feel more and more of that mugginess being a factor for us once we get to the afternoon hours. Where we peak in the mid 80s. This is pretty typical July stuff, nothing too unusual here. And you see the clouds there. Again, we'll get more sunshine getting through those as we get into the afternoon. There's the muggy meter. You're going to notice kind of ease into the upper end of that muggy meter and get near steamy conditions as we get towards sunset. And that's where we're going to spend a lot of the weekend overall. So if you maybe didn't enjoy yesterday, there are some people who are not a fan of it. This is probably more up your alley. Now, as far as what we see for the daytime hours, no concerns. Your afternoon plans, your evening plans are in good shape. Once we get into the night, though, we start bringing in some storm chances. Those arrive as we get after 1 a.m. Those will form up around the Sioux City area and then drift southward as we go through the overnight hours. Could get one or two that have some gusty winds or hail, and I think the best potential for that will be north of I-80. Here's what that looks like. So there you can see 2 a.m. You may give or take a couple of hours here on the exact timing, but we start to bring some of those into our area, and you'll notice they start to weaken a little as they approach I-80, but even as they are at that point, they could still have some strength with them. Probably gets a little noisy overnight, and you'll need to be prepping for that. Now, once we get toward about 7, 8, 9 a.m., you're going to notice we still have storms on the map, but they aren't quite as strong, and we should see those start to push out of the area entirely as we get toward about 10 a.m., and that allows us to clear out as we get into the middle of the day. So when you're looking at the weekend, that gives us our chance to warm back up. We're into the upper 80s for our highs for Saturday, and then again on Sunday. And like I said, that comes with plenty of mugginess alongside it. So a lot of July in the temperature department right there.
But again, those people that love the summer, they're going to love this, right?
They are, I know. So get a little bit of break, back up to those warmer temperatures. Let's talk about some of those storms that we're tracking.
Yeah, you probably noticed a lot of lightning bolts on the graphic. The good news is, just like today, if you have plans to be outdoors for Saturday or Sunday, you don't need to worry about those getting ruined unless it's a very early morning hour thing. Afternoon looks good, and the evening looks good. We're kind of holding on to those storm chances that come in the overnight hours. So once again, we get into Saturday night, and this is not just after dark, but after midnight when we're talking about getting another round of storms that can make their way through. One or two of those, again, may have some gusty winds with them as we get into the overnight hours. We see those linger into our Sunday morning and we clear those out pretty early. We get into our Sunday after sunset hours, another round of storms. So you don't need to get too concerned about what happens with those storms during the daytime hours, because we'll keep those hours quiet. It's as we get into the overnight when we have those. So may have to take an afternoon nap is what I might be, you might have to expect to take place with some of those overnight rounds, maybe getting a little noisy. Once we get beyond that, though, the story once we get to Monday becomes the heat. You're going to notice a lot of 90s as we go through all of next week, all the way to next weekend. Plenty of mugginess alongside that. The heat looking like it probably peaks around Tuesday or Wednesday. They're in the mid 90s. And it's not just the heat, it's the fact that the heat index is going to be up into the triple digits at the peak. So be ready for that.
All right, got to get mentally ready for that. Meanwhile, you're getting us ready for that morning commute. How's it looking on I-80 this morning?
Yeah, that's a frequent problem spot that we have. A lot of times we've actually the last morning or so haven't been quite as bad, but when you look at the picture, you're going to see, well, we're back to what we've been seeing. A lot of slowdowns as you're making your way along that stretch there of westbound I-80 approaching Giles. So be ready for that as you're heading through that stretch. The good news is this is kind of the only big problem that we are seeing, but it is a pretty good sized problem. The backup's starting to try to leak into that 680 interchange, and that's when I always start to get concerned about that becoming a domino effect, is if we get those delays into that interchange, because then it can go on to the southbound 680, it can go on to westbound 80, and it becomes a bigger deal entirely. So I'll be watching this closely. At this point, it's mostly confined to that area around L and Giles westbound. Even eastbound doesn't look as bad as what we're seeing in that area. So hopefully we can just keep it in that short part. You can try to leave a little extra time to get through there if you have to. Elsewhere in the metro, looks pretty good as far as how the commute's going. We've got a couple of spots that are a little bit slower just with the increased traffic load there on Center as you're getting close to Industrial. A couple spots of Dodge with some minor slowdowns as you're getting near 90th and 72nd. Hopefully we can keep those where they're at and just have to deal with the one spot that's a major headache. Keep things as smooth as possible on this Friday.
That's a goal, right?
Yeah.
All right, Jared, thank you. We do have an update to some breaking news that we brought to you last night at 10. A Nebraska man is behind bars this morning after a plane taking off from Omaha was diverted to Cedar Rapids, Iowa. This video was given to First Alert 6 by passenger Jonathan Spencer Vanderwarden. The 23-year-old man was escorted off the plane by law enforcement. Witnesses say that man tried to open an exit row door, then fought with the flight crew and passengers. The plane was initially traveling from Omaha to Detroit.
Authorities have confirmed the body found in the back seat of a car is a woman missing from Wisconsin. The Iowa County Sheriff's Office identified the woman as 67-year-old Dorinda Segebrecht of Dodgeville, Wisconsin. Wednesday, troopers booked 23-year-old Gavin Thompson after a chase on a number of charges, including a flight to avoid arrest. Officials say there is no known relationship between the victim and Thompson.
Omaha police tell us one person is in the hospital after a chase ended in a crash. Now, this happened near 24th and F. According to police, it began about 8:30 last night near 28th and Q when an unmarked cruiser was hit. Now, during the chase, police say the car involved reportedly hit a pickup. We are told the pickup driver was not hurt. The driver of the car that was pursued was hospitalized with minor injuries. At this point, we haven't heard about anything about possible charges. All right, here at the safety desk with Maria Kate, kids heading back to school soon. You have some important information about immunizations.
Yeah, this is really the time to get them done for kids. Vaccination coverage dipped among U.S. kindergartners during the 2023-2020 school year, but these are critical to keep kids preventable diseases. Now, health experts say, again, now is the time to make sure that your student's health is protected. Experts say it takes a couple of weeks for kids to build up that immunity after they get those immunizations. Developing it before school starts reduces the risk of the kids getting preventable diseases during the school year.
Our 4 to 6 year olds, when they're first starting kindergarten or first grade, have a variety of vaccines that they need to be caught up on so they're prepared to enter school in a healthy way and not have to miss school due to vaccine preventable illness.
Now, summer, of course, is a really great time to do those back to school physicals as well. Get them checked up before they head back. Dr. LaSalle says it's also really important to, of course, continue those checkups all throughout the year.
Absolutely. My boys have theirs next week.
There you go.
Gotta stay on it. All right. You've got some good information for those of us who may have toss and turn overnight. There may be an answer for that. The easy answer.
A yoga mat, pair of tennis shoes. How's that sound?
That sounds easy. I
agree.
Yeah.
Researchers looked at nearly 24 clinical trials, and they found that exercises like yoga, Tai Chi, and walking help with insomnia and getting better sleep. So according to the study, if participants practiced this 2 to 6 times a week, they slept longer, and they woke up less often while they were sleeping. Walking 3 to 5 times a week helped brighten people's moods. It also reduced their stress hormones. Experts say while physical activity improves our minds and bodies, of course, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. So if your sleep still doesn't improve after you try that, you might want to go see your doctor, get that checked out.
Yeah, but walking does do miracles. If ever I have a stressful day, it's the first thing I do when I get home.
Yeah,
you just choose to go out and take a walk.
Touch grass, right?
Yes. All right, Leah, thank you. We'll be right back.
All right, welcome back on this Friday morning. Time now 7:15. Live look overlooking the Midtown and the downtown areas. Yesterday was, of course, a great forecast. I guess the one thing, though, that maybe is slightly missing, it wasn't a great warm day for a nice laying out by the pool. Now, more of that does return today, though, Jared.
Yeah, it's actually looking like a really nice day to do that because we're going to be looking at temperatures a little bit warmer. You've got the mugginess factor. We're going to keep any precip at bay, and by the time we get to the afternoon, especially we get mid to late afternoon, we'll have more and more of that sunshine that you saw peeking through in that shot completely breaking through. So looks pretty good as we get into the PM hours today. A little more sunshine tomorrow if that's more of your speed, maybe even a little bit better of a forecast for the pool for Saturday. UV index today is at a 5. That's more so the later we get more of that sunshine. So plan accordingly with that. We've seen this be a whole lot higher and it will be higher for tomorrow. So still good idea to use that sunscreen. Overall weekend forecast, the daytime hours do look pretty good. And it's just a whole lot of July, a lot of mugginess and some 80s for temps. The storm chances are going to be mostly overnight as we see those move in past midnight tonight. Similar timing for tomorrow, and hold on to those into the early morning hours before we sweep those out. And again, a couple of these could get strong, particularly north of I-80 for tonight, where we could be looking at some gusty winds, maybe a little hail, and the strongest of those. Those will be at their peak strength to the north of us, but still have a bit of a punch as they get into our area. Saturday night could still have a storm or two that gets some strength after midnight, and into our Sunday morning we'll still have a bit of some activity around. We clear that out pretty early. Sunday night, another round. So this is just the pattern that we're looking at. Continuing to bring some of these rounds of storms in the overnight hours and then drying out as we get into the daytime hours. When you're talking about just how much rain we could see out of this, there is a little bit of a lean into the Iowa side to pick up some better rainfall totals out of this once we start talking about blues and purples on the scale, you're looking at 1 to 2 inches that are possible in those areas. You know, you can see those amounts start to drop off as you work your way south and west. And I do think tonight, it's particularly as you get toward Tacoma, Denison, Harlan, where you have that better chance to pick up some of those storms as they roll through from the north. So be ready for that. That's something that we'll be tracking closely. We do still have some areas that are under the moderate drought. I do think a lot of the rainfall totals likely miss some of those areas, unfortunately, but we'll have to keep an eye on seeing if we can at least get a little bit of some help out of those storm chances. Now, once those roll out, the story really starts to change. We see the rain chances start to get a little bit lessened by the time we get to our Monday and Tuesday, and yes, that's some 90s that we're seeing show up there for those 2 days.
Yeah, and we're really going to heat things up after that, Jared.
Yeah, you know, we've had a couple of day stretches where we talk about 90s for highs over the last couple of months, but this is going to be a more extended time frame, and you can see that we probably peak about Tuesday and Wednesday in the mid-90s for the actual air temperature, but you'll notice that we are going to hold on to the 90s all the way to the end of the 10-day. It's not just the temperatures, but we're looking at steamy air, and when you factor that in, if my graphics will advance, there we go. We're talking triple-digit peak heat index values.
We didn't want to see that. That's why the graphics it's too hot.
The clicker didn't even want to show it. But yeah, that's looking likely for much of next week, and not really any big signs of that changing as we go even all the way to the end of the 10-day forecast. So be ready for that.
Yeah. All right. Hello, July.
Here we go.
Here we go. All right, Jared, thank you. What happening today? The remains of fallen U.S. Army Private Erwin Shupp will be laid to rest in Plymouth. His funeral is set for 10:30 this morning at the Plymouth Community Center. He served in World War II and died as a prisoner of war in 1943, with historical records showing he was buried in a common grave.
Happening today, live horse racing is coming to Omaha. Races will be held at the Horseman's Park track today and tomorrow, with 2 more days of racing planned for next weekend. 4 races will be held each day, starting at 4 p.m. today and then 1:30 tomorrow. The event is free. It's open to the public of all ages, but you must be 21 and up to wager or enter Warhorse Casino. Coming up, we're sharing the top 15 most boring cities in the country.
Most boring.
Thanks.
Do you think Omaha made the list?
No.
No, not at all. We're fun. All right, find out when we come back. Well, it would not be summer without it. Millions of people are already getting ready to take a bite out of Shark Week.
Yeah, the Discovery Channel's ever-popular Shark Week programming run starts Sunday. The cultural phenomenon is now in its 37th year. Wow, this year's event will premiere 20 hours of new shows that includes Dancing with the Sharks and one titled Frankenshark, too. You guys should watch that.
You know, we love Dancing with the Stars.
Excited.
So.
Yeah, I want to see that. And my mom loves Shark Week.
Does she?
Yeah. Every year she would have me and my brothers watch it.
Really?
Religiously.
It'll probably be on a
I don't think I've ever really watched it like that. Okay.
She loves it.
It's interesting.
A lot of people do too. So
Apparently.
37 years.
Yeah.
All right, we always hear from best places to visit in America. Yeah, they talk about New York City, Hawaii, but what about the worst, maybe?
Okay, y'all. So Finance Buzz is giving us a list of cities you may want to avoid. Omaha, we can breathe. We did not make the most boring list.
By the way,
Thank goodness.
avoid for boring reasons, too, because people say these are boring, I guess.
So, 15 most boring cities in the country. The scoring criteria focus on population, culinary scene, access to outdoor adventures, nightlife, recreational activities. So here's the top 5. Are you ready for this? Number 5, Memphis, Tennessee.
Really?
Yes.
Graceland, Beale Street.
Yes.
Barbecue.
Number 4, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, which when I remember I went for a tournament for basketball. I thought it was like a hidden treasure. Like you can go down to the falls.
A lot of nature.
Yeah, a lot of nature. So I was shocked by that. Number 3, Corpus Christi, Texas.
That is the beach. I mean, I'm a little surprised by that one. But I don't know. I guess relative to other places in Texas, maybe
I'm not shocked by this one. This one maybe belong. Wichita, Kansas. Does anybody disagree with Wichita?
I'm sure some folks do.
Okay. That's boring. Number 1, Jacksonville, Florida. I don't know. You guys on the beach, and it's got the Jaguars, and it's a fun campus. I don't know about that one.
We're talking
the most boring?
Yeah, we're talking about, like things, if you're from a place, if you grew up in a city, you'll have a different perspective on somebody who has moved there and lived there later in life. I do this with my hometown. I'm sure you do it with your hometown.
My hometown got it going on.
Yeah, everyone has a different perspective.
Maybe these are underrated cities.
That's a good perspective.
Yeah.
The best thing you do is just go there and find out for yourself.
Check it out.
What do you guys think? All right, we're going to leave you with that list. Thank you so much for joining us. So we're going to get ready for our update into today's show. Of course, you can watch it here on streaming or over the air.
Have a great start to your weekend.
Live from WOWT, First Alert 6 starts now.
Good Friday morning to you. It is 7:26. I'm Cerise Cole.
And I'm Erin Hartley. Let's get an update on weather and traffic this morning with Jarrett Lansford.
And let's check in on how things are moving in one of our biggest trouble spots on the roads this morning, and it is I-80 westbound, of course. Here's you're approaching Giles. That is the construction zone. You've got the lane restrictions, and it's pretty bottled up this morning. We're having some struggles as you're heading through that stretch. You're going to want to be prepared for some delays. That back up to about L with the worst of those, but approaching the 680 interchange, so be ready for it to potentially get into that interchange and slow you down. Elsewhere in the metro, though, we're moving along pretty well. No big problems that we've seen develop elsewhere. elsewhere at this point. You're heading out the door to a warmer start. We're looking at some cloud cover, a little bit of some sunshine that's trying to punch through those clouds. We'll have more success at getting that sun to break through in the afternoon. 67 our current temp. Notice the dew point. That's up into the 60s. Yesterday that was in the 50s. You're going to feel more of that mugginess as the day goes on. Mid 80s for our high, a lot like what we should see this time of year. And we'll get, as I said, more sunshine in the afternoon. We'll keep that mugginess as a factor, not just today, but all weekend long. And then as we get past midnight, we're going to be talking about some storm chances that move into the area. And I think particularly north of I-80. Could get one or two that have some gusty winds and hail with them. Could get a little noisy overnight. And through the weekend, that's going to be the pattern. Dry daytime hours with storms in the overnight hours.
All right, Jared, thank you. One person is fighting for their life this morning after this crash. This happened on Highway 75 in L just after 11 o'clock last night. We're told the victim was taken to the hospital with life-saving measures in progress.
It is 7:28. We're back with another update for you in 25 minutes. We'll see you then.